Hello again, this is Kei from Japan. I was actually gonna talk about the wave theory and price observation theory, and I was actually preparing for the video. However, I just realized that I had a few things that I haven't covered on the time theory yet. And this is also necessary to understand the wave and price observation theory, which I will be talking about. So on this video, I will do some recap on the time theory and take you a little deeper down and talk about Taito Suchi and some of its variations so that you really get the whole picture of time theory, because this is the most important part in Ichimoku Kinko Hyo. As Ichimoku Sanjin says, time is everything on the market. So let's get started right now. Again, in Ichimoku, time is the most important thing because the price, the price on the market is actually affected by the time in a huge part. In other words, price is controlled and ruled by the time. It may sound weird to you, but it's actually how Ichimoku sees the market, and at first I still remember that I was very confused by the concept when I actually started to learn it, but now I totally agree with it. But the books I was reading were pretty much complicated, so it took time for me to actually grasp it and be able to use it in actual trading. But now that I have swallowed it and digested it well, I will teach you the concept in a way that's a little more understandable than the original books. Alright, so in Ichimoku Kinko Hyo, the time is considered to be essential to understand the market, that it actually gives us a kind of a ruler, so to speak, that you can measure the time, and the ruler is called Kihon Suchi. Like for example, when you try to create and build a chair with your friend from a wood, you cannot just cut the wood by your instinct, because maybe where you think you should cut and where your friend thinks he should cut might be different places and ends up with not being able to connect those parts together. But when you have a ruler or a measure, you two can both have the common sense as to where exactly the wood needs to be cut in like centimeters or inches, so that you two can cut the wood on the exact length and build those parts perfectly, And it's actually the same in Forex too. Like when you look at a chart with your friend or somebody else, you might have this experience before, but for example, where the trend starts and where it ends can be different from one another, You think the trend starts from one place, but he thinks it starts with different candlestick. And consolidation too, like where it starts and where it ends can be different from one another, And why it happens is because each one has their own rulers and they see what they see, but they don't see what you see, That you are like almost talking with different languages, so to speak. So to avoid that confusion, Ichimoku gives us a ruler that's in the horizontal time axis, because again, time is considered to be the most important part, and the ruler is called Kihon Suchi, like 9, 17, 26, 33, 42, and so on. I will show them on the screen right now, and these are the numbers that we can see in common so that we know exactly which point we're talking about. And these numbers typically show the timing when the market reverses or up to where the particular trend will persist. Let's say you see a market like this, lower high, and let's say the price just started to go upwards. And when you take the point B and go 26 candles backwards, and let's say you find a point A, then you can say that the market from A to B is on 26-day cycle, The market is on one of the Kihon Suchi cycle. Then when you measure from B to C, it might also be 26 candles. Maybe it can be 25 or 27, but sometimes it can be pretty close to 26. And if that's the case, you can expect the next high, the point D, might be another 26 days after. And actually there's another type of ruler in Ichimoku Kinko Hyo, and that's called Taito Suchi, directly translated as equal numbers in Japanese. It's like when the market moves lower high like this, the time between point A and B and the point between B and C can be the same. It can be any numbers like 11, 28, or 90, or whatever, but sometimes an equal candle numbers appear like this, and this is the Taito Suchi. So when you measure from A to B, and when you find it's 11, let's say, then from B to C, or sometimes from B to D, can also be 11 candles, and this is how you analyze the market behavior in time. So to make it clear, Kihon Suchi is the series of numbers like 9 or 26 that are likely to be a reverse point in the market, just like a psychological time period that traders can bear to hold their positions, and Taito Suchi is where the same number appear on the market. And it can be one of the Kihon Suchi numbers, but it can also be with any numbers. And these remarkable points are called henkabi, simply translated as a day of change, the days when the market reversed. So this is henkabi, this is henkabi, and this one is henkabi, and this is also another henkabi, right? And those henkabi can be exactly on the same cycle with same number of days, but it can be slightly like 1 or 2 days different. But the idea is to find the pattern on the market and mark the point in the future so that we can be aware of the future henkabi as it gets closer and be able to psychologically get ready for the X day. Now let's look at a recent chart to actually see how these numbers show up. This is the daily chart of euro dollar as an example, and if you look at this chart with candles only, without any indicators, you can clearly see the price actions, right? And it's just beautiful and simple. Now I put yellow vertical lines where the market marks highs and lows, and also the trend beginning and ending candles, right? And what I do is I count the numbers of the candles on each intervals and try to find a certain patterns with the Kihon Suchi or with any numbers to find where the Taito Suchi is hidden on the market. And when I just start to count each one of the candles in front of you right now, it will take forever and might be a waste of time. So I already counted these actually, and here we go. You see, the numbers on the chart is actually the numbers of the candles between the lines. So for example, this one says 9, right? So that means there are 9 candles in between yellow lines. So from here to here, you see there are highs and lows, and from this day to this day, the highs and lows were moving exactly in 9-day cycle. And remember, 9 is one of the Kihon Suchi in Ichimoku Kinko Hyo. And this one too, after it marked the highest, it took 17 days to go bearish and go up, and from this day, it took another 16 days to go down and up. Then after 17 days, the market marked the lowest price. So in between this day and this day, you can see the cycle was 17 days or 16 days of up and down momentum, and 17 is another number in Kihon Suchi. So as you can see, oftentimes the market moves in Kihon Suchi cycles, which are 9, 17, 26, 33. However, there are times when the market moves as a cycle with any numbers. Like look at here, you see 13-day cycle here, but it's not one of the Kihon Suchi, right? And when the market does not move with Kihon Suchi, but still when it moves with the same number of candles, like these two, 30 or 31 is not a part of Kihon Suchi, and yet the market moves with a pattern with the same number of candlesticks. And this is called Taito Suchi, okay? So to be able to identify these patterns, you need to first sit down and look at a chart, and first identify the highs and lows and count the candles in between. How I usually do this is, for example, I look for the most highest price on the market, and this is the one in this case, right? So I take this high and count the numbers to highs and lows with Kihon Suchi going forward or backward, and see if the market resonates with those numbers, If you're just starting this, don't take something like this one or this low, because it's not the highest or lowest and might confuse you along the way. But take the highest or lowest candle like this and go back and forth with Kihon Suchi first, and see if you see any cycles on the market. If you're using MT4 or MT5, you can use a tool called cycles. Here I will put how you can find it and drag it like 9 or 17 or any other Kihon Suchi numbers so that it automatically gives the intervals between candles and make it easier for you to identify the cycles. And once you're done with those numbers, then start to measure the numbers of candles between highs and lows manually. Again, if you're using MT4 or MT5, just press Ctrl F to show the measuring tool and count the numbers in between so that you can identify another cycle patterns like 13 here or 31 like here. Alright, now let me take one step ahead. Actually, there's a variation in Taito Suchi, and I'm gonna show you how they actually appear on a chart, but this is a little advanced technique, so if you're like overwhelmed by the information so far, you can listen to them again to fully understand them first. However, these variations are also important to know the whole concept of Ichimoku Kinko Hyo, so I'm just introducing it as a part of the whole this Ichimoku complete video series. Alright, so here we go. So again, Taito Suchi is the same number of candles appear on the market right next to each other, and it can be one of the numbers in Kihon Suchi, but it can also be with any numbers, right? And there are two kinds of Taito Suchi, and these are called Jugi and Kakugi, right? Take a look at this one. From this candle to this candle, it's 43, and from this one to this one, there are 44 candles, right? So as you can see, they are almost the same numbers, Taito Suchi, equal numbers, but some candles are overlapping. And in this case, it's called Jugi. Ju means overlap. And another variation is Kakugi. What this means is like this. You take the same 27 candles or similar number of candles as a cycle, but there's a little gap in between. So the market moves with the same number, but when there's a little gap in between, then this is called Kakugi. Now, when the gap is too wide, it's not called Kakugi anymore. Ideally the gap should be like half number of candles of a particular cycle. So in this case, when you find it 27 candles, then the gap should be something less than like 13 or 14 candles. Then you can call it Kakugi. So here's a summary. You look at a chart, and first you look for the lows and highs on the market, and see if the market moves with certain numbers like 9, 17, or 26, with Kihon Suchi. And if the market moves with the same number of candlesticks right next to each other, then it's called Taito Suchi, okay? And when the market moves with the same number of candles, but if the part of the candles are overlapping, it's called Jugi. And when there's a gap in between, then it's called Kakugi, right? Clear enough? And this is a bit of a work, to be honest, when you first try to apply this on a chart, because basically you need to measure the candles manually. But once you're used to it, you'll be able to identify the Kihon Suchi and Taito Suchi just by looking at a chart without measuring one by one, It's like typing words on your PC. But like first time you look for where's A, where's C, right? You actually look for the letters and type them out. But once you're used to it, you don't need to look at the keyboards anymore, right? You can just type words just like you speak. So I think it's just the same. And why this trading is important is if you are really used to see the market like this, it gives you another idea of how you look at the market from a different angle that people usually don't notice, so that you can be ahead above from other traders. And that's why I decided to share all these knowledges of Ichimoku Kinko Hyo, because this is simply a powerful concept, and this was a part of a training I had gone through to become a professional trader. So by the time you are used to be able to identify these cycles, just like you type words without looking at the keyboard, you will be able to analyze the market faster with confidence, and your trades will be much improved. You can't just go 1,000 miles. Every journey always starts with one step, step by step. So now you're ready for the wave theory and price observation theory, which I'll be talking on the next video. So if you don't want to miss it, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so that you get automatic notification when it's out. And please press the good button if you liked the information on this video too. Alright, see you on the next video. Stay gold. またね. Cheers.